Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any of our platforms. Please reach out to me directly. Email tmosso at thewatchbox.com. Today, we are discussing a 40mm bronze and titanium timepiece as part of a family launched in 2017. It's the Zenith Pilot Type 20 Extra Special, 40mm in bronze. So it's a more wearable version of the watches that started filtering out in 2012 when Zenith decided to reimagine its historic pilot's watches as modern-day wristwatches. So bronze in 40mm, it's 13mm thick from lug tip to lug tip, 48.2mm, and it uses a 20mm spacing for its strap size. Taking a quick look on the wrist, you can see this watch wears well on my 16cm circumference wrist. This would be the size I would choose. Obviously, they've made them larger and much, much larger, but not only is this fairly low to fit underneath the cuff, but it's short across the wrist, which you can really see right here that these lugs are nowhere near the edge of my wrist. See how the strap is curving down and out on both sides? So that means that the lugs are not near the edge of my wrist. So you could wear this watch perhaps on a wrist as small as 13.5cm circumference if your wrist is more oval than round. Taking a look at the strap, it has a deceptive name that turns a lot of people off. They call this oily nubuck leather. No, it's not going to leave a stain. It's not going to leave residue. It's not slimy. It's not oily. It's a description of perhaps a more natural tanning process, a more supple effect, perhaps a little bit more of a velvety texture, but what it's not is physically oily in any fashion that we would associate with the term. It's just a very luxurious texture in sort of slate blue with a contrasting aviator style stitch. You can see it uses a broad folded edge. It's quite thick. There's a lot of leather here. On the underside, this is something Zenith's been doing for most of the last decade. Rubber inlays below a strap. This helps to preserve the leather and keep your wrist very comfortable, as the moisture, sweat, heat, and grit of the wrist will not wear down the strap. So comfortable, but also makes for a longer lasting strap. We have here a titanium satin finished pin buckle for quick adjustments on the fly. We have that contrasting combination of calf skin with a white stitch, lovely aviator style. You can see the lugs here are wiry, though they're not technically wire lugs. If you look carefully, you can see we're still using spring bars in there, so it's fairly easy to swap out. Like a vintage Zenith Pilot's watch, we have bolts that appear to fix an individual numbering plate, but if you look carefully, it's actually integral with the case. We have a bezel that is relatively flat. It's got a little bit of burnishing here. This is a aged and burnished case, so unlike a lot of bronze, which comes from the factory in a relatively new finish or a mint condition, speaking to a fresh off the presses type of novelty, this is designed to look like something that's a couple of years old. It hasn't necessarily aged this way. It's, as you can see at the edge of the bezel and the periphery of the crown, it's actually been aged a little bit and then burnished at the factory to give it that pre-weathered look. You can particularly see that where the lugs join the case. And you can see if you look carefully that the lugs in the case are not integral to each other. We have a domed sapphire designed to look like a vintage plexi. We have a sunburst blue metallic dial. The lume on these is quite special. As you can see, absolutely no shortage. And all three hands lume, so you can tell in the dark whether it is running. We have enormous cathedral-style hands on a balanced no-date dial. We have an applied Zenith star. You can see that the hands themselves are satinated to better contrast against the dial base. And each of the numerals, do my best to show you this, it's actually a solid block of lume. So these are not printed features or a painted superluminova. These things are actually three-dimensional. They have length, width, and height. You can also see the excellent detail of the satination on the hands. We do have a hacking or stop seconds function. Flip it all over, and you can see Montre d'Aéronef, and it is Type 20, Type Vault, the Blériot monoplane, upon which a Zenith timepiece flew across the English Channel in 1909. And the caseback's made of grade 5 titanium, so that's what we're looking at back here. Inside the case, we know because it's in the reference number, Zenith Elite caliber 679, protected down to 100 meters. It is a unidirectional automatic winder with a 50-hour power reserve, a 4 hertz beat rate, and an excellent record for durability and accuracy. And of course, it has that stop seconds function, so you can synchronize to a reference time. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.